Hi, I'm Josh, one of the mentors in the course, and I'm going to give a brief summary of what we've been talking about in the first week and some of the comments that caught my eye. So to start with, it's great to see that there are so many people, so many of you participating. We now have over 300 comments on many of the steps. And if you look at the map from step 2, you'll see that people are joining all the time still and coming from pretty much all over the world. So in the first 3 steps, they're largely about trying to create a welcoming and positive learning environment or community, which we'll look at more next week. And Joe and I are doing our best to try to say hello to you all and join in with conversations and make everyone feel welcome. So please do take the time to speak to each other and reply to each other's comments, read a few comments, and help us create a welcoming environment, which I hope you'll agree there is on the course. Anyway, now I'll move on to highlighting some of the conversations that Joe and I have noticed. So I'll start with the first step. On the very first step, Kerry and Joe started speaking about whether the internet and courses like this really are democratizing access to learning. And sometimes that makes me wonder about what we can't see. So we see lots of friendly, welcoming comments from people all over the world on this course, but what about all those people that can't join this kind of course, or that read but don't feel enabled to participate in the conversations? And as a teacher, I wonder about what we can do to help those people feel more welcome and more enabled to participate in our conversations. I'd also like to highlight Astrid's comment about the amazing capacities of the human brain for expressing what's inside us. This relates to our conversations about meaning and language. And she talks about the feelings and thoughts that we're able to express. A lot of people have replied to that, so join in there if you're interested in that. And also Kaya's, sorry, I may not be pronouncing people's names properly, Kaya's comment about the language choices we make, particularly if we know more than one language, when we choose to use particular words, and how this relates to our identity and how we express ourselves. So again, if you're interested in that, join in with that conversation. The links to the conversations I'm mentioning should be under this video. We then moved on to talk about what language is and how learning other languages can change our understanding of this. And I think Monica asked a great question, which was, think about one thing you would not know if you had never learned a second or further language. So think about that question and contribute your answer to that conversation. Several people highlighted relationships between language and feelings. And this probably relates to motivation, which came in as the top factor influencing language learning for many people. And I think that's where we can begin to connect our understanding of what language is to language learning and language teaching and approaches to language learning and teaching. So, although most people did highlight motivation as the key factor, lots of other people mentioned how this is linked to teaching and teaching methods and other factors. And Willem joined in a conversation in which he suggested a useful way of thinking about the various factors that might influence motivation at any time. And that might be helpful for us as teachers, those of us that are teachers and learners, to think about how we can influence our own and others' motivations. And I think that also relates to a conversation that Anastasia started, which talks about what we need more than simple exposure to language in order to accelerate or improve second or further language learning. And to relate this to the conversations about grammar and what's difficult and easy in other languages, Esther started a conversation which asks, how do we do this? How do we use meaning-focused, meaningful language learning techniques and integrate attention to grammar or other difficulties such as spelling, which is one that several people mentioned and Susanna mentioned. So if you've only got tips for English spelling, pronunciation difficulties, join in with Susanna's conversation. Anyway, I think that's a good point to finish on, because next week is really very much about that, how to have meaning-focused language learning and teaching approaches, and also incorporate the kinds of things we've been talking about in terms of difficulties with language learning for specific language groups, etc. This week. So this is probably also getting too long now, so it's a good point to stop. But I would like to just say before I finish that obviously the comments that Joe and I have noticed may not reflect the ones that you have thought are the most interesting. So I'd very much like to encourage you to share comments and links to your favorite conversations from this week below. And I look forward to carrying on conversations with all of you and reading your thoughts, which I find very inspiring very often and help me think about my own approaches to language teaching and learning. I look forward to carrying on with that next week. Bye.